All
Hello,
right.
I'm Terry Muir, and I'll be your host today. We here at Sustainable Kashi are proud to provide these free classes every week to help us all learn new ways to connect us to our regenerative ecosystem. Feel free to learn more about our project at sustainablekashi.com. We're really excited to have Daren Golden today with us. He is the founder of Goldin Solar, it's a residential solar energy contractor with offices in Miami, Orlando, Vero Beach. He's been able to tour the grounds here at Kashi, and he's a wonderful human being with lots and lots of knowledge. So I really look forward to everything you have to share with us today, Daren. Your work is focused on providing some amazing technology, and you're helping people and businesses protect the environment. So thank you for the work you do, and thank you for being here today.
So thank you so much for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I did have the privilege of touring Kashi quite about a year and maybe a half ago, and it was absolutely beautiful. And it's so cool to see what you guys did by tying together, the spirituality and meditation and mindfulness with sustainability and permaculture. And it's a beautiful experience, and I love that you guys are opened up to visitors and folks living long term and folks able to stay short term. It's amazing. You're living the lifestyle and you're able to educate the rest of the world on how things could be. So, thank you for everything that you do, and thanks for having me.
All right, I look forward to seeing what you have to share with us.
Cool. So the company's Goldin Solar, and our slogan is "Let's change the world together." Because really, we couldn't change anything by ourselves. We bring the expertise on solar energy, and our customers bring the eagerness to live sustainably and the solar resource, which is their rooftop. And it's very simple. We change the way that they power their lives. Instead of getting, grid power, which is a mix of a variety of different sources, they get solar power, which is renewable, sustainable, and abundant. So a little bit about who we are. We're a turnkey residential and commercial solar energy installer. And turnkey meaning we do everything, all the way from the site assessment. So we're going to evaluate the conditions for solar, all the way to long-term system monitoring and maintenance, and everything in between. And so we have three, Florida solar contracting license. We're solar contractors, electrical contractors, and roofing contractors, because those three areas of expertise are really needed to be able to do a solar installation. It's actually integrating a lot of different things. I like to emphasize we are effectively putting a power plant on your roof, and we're pulling together the building departments and all of their expectations about how construction should happen, and put a lot of effort into how to meet code, which in Florida means being able to live through hurricanes or have a system make it through a hurricane, a utility and net metering, and we'll talk about that, and the home's existing conditions like roofing and how it's tilted and oriented towards the sun. So we're going to look at all of these things. We were founded in February 24th, 2014. So we just celebrated our 7th birthday. We have over 1,250 systems deployed all throughout Florida. So as Terry mentioned, we have offices in Miami, Vero Beach, and Orlando, and that's allowed us to really cover a lot of territory in the Sunshine State. We have installed, as of now, about 16 megawatts of rooftop solar. To put that in perspective, an average home is probably between 5 and 10 kilowatts. So do the math there. And then those systems have produced 32.8 gigawatt hours. So power, or kilowatts or megawatts, is the rating of the system in terms of its capacity, and energy is in kilowatt hours or megawatt hours or gigawatt hours, has that time component. So the power is the potential of the system, the energy is its long-term yield, the output of the system over time. We've got over 50 full-time employees, and we're in Miami, Vero Beach, and in Orlando. So a little bit about myself. My background is structural engineering. I went to the University of South Florida in Tampa, so basically a native Floridian. And then I got a master's in construction engineering and project management. So I was always interested in construction engineering. And basically the way that I got into this industry is I remember learning in college about something called Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and the U.S. Green Building Council. And I said, I want to get involved with that. I want to build buildings that are green. If you can build buildings that are green, just as easily as building buildings that are not green. Let's do that. So after grad school, I worked as a project manager, as a superintendent, building schools, auditoriums, homes, office space. And what I realized is, as a project manager, really, you're handed a set of plans to build, and it's just up to you to build them effectively, safely, on schedule, on budget. But it's how can I make myself make things more sustainable? So I had the opportunity and the privilege to build a 20 megawatt solar farm in North Carolina in 2013, working for another company. Fell in love with solar. I said, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. And when I was finished with that project, I went back to Miami and created Goldin Solar. And we started with a rooftop, and our first couple of customers were really serious environmentalists that just were really stoked about, doing renewable energy on their own home. And it's been incredible to see the growth of the industry in the last 7 years. My business partner is Joe Cataldo. He has a bachelor's in electrical engineering from the University of Florida. He's done work for NASA, and he's installed about 100 solar systems in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands before returning to Florida, opening up the second branch of Goldin Solar in Vero Beach. And we've grown the company together and done really amazing things. So why we do this? Sea level rise is a real threat. It's caused by climate change. I live in South Florida. I live in Miami, and it's been said that Miami is ground level for economic loss directly resulting from sea level rise and climate change. The reason is all along the coast of Miami and Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach, there's a lot of high rises. So there's a tremendous amount of dollar value, hard cash in assets that will be lost if that area becomes uninhabitable. That is to say that South Florida, in terms of dollars, has the most to lose out of any other place in terms of feet of sea level rise per dollars lost. So this is something that, if for no other reason, we really need to take seriously, because livelihoods and lives depend on this. Of course, other than that, addressing climate change is, just the right thing to do. So the interesting thing about climate change is that the problems actually start long before sea level rise. And what I mean by that is most people that buy their property are buying their property with a mortgage. And a mortgage is always going to require that the property is insured. So insurance is all about risk versus reward. So the reward for the insurance company is the amount of money that someone pays an insurance company in order to insure their property. The risk is the amount of money that they have to pay out in the event of a claim. As sea level rise occurs and climate change, there's going to be worse hurricanes. There's going to be more hurricanes, and there's going to be a lot more damage. And what we're anticipating is that before the sea actually rises, and you're actually seeing first floors flood and streets flood, homes will become uninsurable and therefore unmortgageable. So while a lot of people might want to stand back and say, well, sea level rise, that's another century from now, I don't have to worry about that. That's not true. We have to worry about it now, because if a property is unmortgageable and uninsurable, then it can't be purchased. So if somebody owns a property on the beach, and they think, well, I like living here now, but maybe in the future I'm going to want to sell and move somewhere else, retire and downsize or something. We all need to be thinking about this right now, because that's a very real concern to anybody living in anywhere near the coast, long before the actual sea level starts to rise. So, a little bit about how solar works. Solar is able to be mass deployed because of a very simple mechanism called net metering. And because of net metering, this works. Without net metering, it would not be feasible. So net metering is the process of buying and selling energy with the grid through a bidirectional net meter. And utilities do this because it's law in the state of Florida. So any utility that answers to the Public Service Commission, any large public utility, not the smaller municipal utilities, have to do net metering. So this is something that's very important that we all protect so that solar can continue to thrive. And all it means is that it's a power meter. Then instead of simply measuring how much power someone draws through the meter for consumption, it will also give them credit when they send power back to the grid when they overproduce. So what does this all mean? we can put in enough solar on someone's home to produce as much energy as they need. The problem with solar and with any renewable energy is the timing. You know, while we can do enough of it for how much they need, we just can't necessarily do it exactly when it's needed. And the reality of power consumption is that it has to be produced exactly when it's consumed, unless it's stored. And energy storage, in other words, batteries, are really in their infancy in terms of, you know, supporting the power use of buildings. So the way the net metering works is the grid will provide power before the sun comes up. While the sun is out, the solar system is overproducing. It's producing enough power to power the home and the building, and then some. So all that excess power goes back to the grid. And then at night when the sun sets, the power is then taken back from the grid. So it's the process of buying and selling energy that has made solar make sense. Because if you didn't have net metering, you'd have to have battery backup. The cost of a system would go way up, and it would no longer really pencil out. So it's because of net metering, and this is something we have to really maintain. And so what we see on this slide right here is the average hourly usage of 0.87 kilowatt hours. So in other words, this home produced as much as it consumed on this given day. This happens to be my house. And so this is from the perspective of Florida Power and Light. You can see this right on my bill. And so these green bar charts, and this is a single day. This is actually February 15th, 2019. So, you know, just about 2 years ago. The green bars represent positive consumption. So between 1 in the morning and 8 in the morning, I took power from the grid. And then at 5 p.m. to midnight, again, I took power from the grid. But between 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, this is the power that I fed back to the grid. And so this is what's making the home net zero. So net metering helps people achieve net zero, and that's what makes the economics of solar work without battery backup. So a little bit about our products. We like to use a panel by the name of Q-Cell. There's many panels out there. This is the one we chose to use. It's an all black panel, which is really the prevailing aesthetic in this industry. They look really futuristic, really clean. But the biggest thing about these panels is that they have a 4,000 Pascal uplift rating in terms of the wind trying to essentially pull the glass out of the frame. The industry standard is 2,400 Pascal. So this solar panel is almost double the industry standard in terms of wind uplift. This is something that few people really consider, but because we're in South Florida, we have hurricanes, we have to build a really beefed up system. We want our systems to last, that we want them to last, 30, 40, 50 years. And then that's how we can really justify the carbon footprint associated with manufacturing the products. So we pick the right products for the climate that we're in so that they'll last long term. The inverter that we use is called Solar Edge. This inverter is very innovative because they've added another product called the DC Power Optimizer. So I'll take a step back, right? Solar panels convert sunlight into DC power, direct current. But our homes use alternating current or AC power. The inverter is the device that addresses that. So the inverter changes DC to AC. Traditional technology inverts the entire system all at once. Now, we want to be able to keep track of the system. We want to be able to make sure that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And so every inverter that's installed is connected to the internet. And that's how we can really keep an eye on it. These systems come with a 25-year warranty. And so warranty is only as strong as our ability to monitor it and make sure that it's working. In the event that it doesn't work, we can actually call out the manufacturer and have the parts replaced. So the nice thing about Solar Edge is that in addition to the inverter, they have this right here called a DC Power Optimizer, which allows for individual panel level monitoring and optimization. So this is our corporate Solar Edge monitoring platform. And just to give you kind of a sense of scale of our operation, this is a density map of the state of Florida. We've got over 1,200 systems installed just on this platform. So we do have more systems installed on with other inverter brands, but this is the majority of our systems. And you can see we're really installed everywhere, but our biggest densities all along the I-95 corridor. And so, that's the coast, right? That's where sea level rise is threatening to kind of take up land. And so, as we zoom in, we see a bigger density. I always like to show the example of my house. so that we can see what this technology is all about. So we're tracking, again, we're tracking energy production of the system. We're tracking energy production of the individual components, the individual solar panels. And not only are we tracking production, we're tracking consumption as well. So this is the power, and this is real time. So this is going to change, second by second. At this very instant, this solar system is producing 8.03 kilowatts. The home is only using 0.44 kilowatts. And so you can see this arrow going from the house to the grid. So that excess power of 7.63 kilowatts is going back to the grid. I'm going to get credits for that, and then I'm going to be able to use it from the grid later at night. So that's a picture of the array. It's on the right side of this townhome. This is energy. So energy is cumulative. So this is the amount of energy I produced today. This is the amount of energy produced this month, lifetime, and then this is the revenue in terms of dollar savings. This is really important for us to be able to show our customers so that they can wrap their head around realizing the return on investments. And so this is something that's really neat. Just like I showed you on my FPL bill, how buying and selling energy with the grid works. This red area is power I pulled from the grid before the sun came out. This is power I pulled from the grid after the sun set. It spikes way up because that's me getting home at night, plugging in my electric car, so the consumption, spikes. But the bell curve represents the solar production. And so the blue area within the bell curve is what's known as self-consumption, which is power that's never seen by the net meter because it's power that I produced by the solar system that is then used by the home. The green area is the excess production that is fed back to the grid. So that's known as export. And then this is the production month by month. So we're really able to monitor it long term. And then the magic of SolarEdge is being able to see panel level production. It's this level of technology that really allows us to see how every single component is doing. And imagine if there was a tree right here and some of the panels were shaded, we'd see that and we'd be able to make informed decisions with our customers as to if they want to trim the trees. So we're looking at panel level production in 15-minute increments. So we can run the timeline, and we're going back to March 3rd. March 12th. It's 7 in the morning. The panels start lighting up. They're color coded. So if there's a problem with one panel, that one panel would be darker than the rest of them. They get to the peak at noon, and then the sun sets. So it's this level of technology that really helps us give that confidence to the consumer to really see the energy production and match the energy production with their actual needs. We always want to have exactly the right fit solar system for what that customer needs. So we talked about the inverter, and that's what's so special about it. It's having that level of monitoring and observation so that we can really see how the individual components are doing. So this is kind of an example of what it does. The other thing, in addition to monitoring, it's also going to help mitigate partial shading effects. So if one single panel is shaded, only that one panel is affected. All the rest of them will continue to perform at their own individual peak, as opposed to the older technology that the entire array would be affected because of the series that the panels were connected in. So that's what optimization is all about. We definitely want to give our customers the best technology that's out there. The future is just a whole home integration. You're going to have smart plugs, smart thermostats. Things are going to be able to be programmed to turn on when the sun is at its peak. So, what I really love about the solar industry is that it pulls together technology and sustainability to be able to say, as we progress as a human species technologically, we can actually use that progression towards, reconciling our relationship with the earth. If you think about the Industrial Revolution, that was the humans progressing technologically at the expense of, our living sustainably on the planet. Basically we just lit things on fire, wood and coal, and that wasn't sustainable. And so now, of course, as the human species, we're continuing to progress technologically, but now we're returning to a place that does not, come at the expense of harming our beautiful planet. So a little bit about how solar is designed. In South Florida, we're north of the equator. In Miami, our latitude is 25 degrees. And so really what you want to do is point the panels to the south. And that's they're going to result in the maximum, energy production. So this is known as the solar window. And so you can see the band at June. That's the summer solstice. That's the largest, widest arc. Then you see the winter solstice, that's the shortest arc, shortest day. And then you can see March and September, which is the fall and spring equinox, and that's the average day. So really we want to point the sun towards that average day for the maximum year-round production. This is a concentric circle chart that shows the production losses as a result of deviating from that sweet spot. So the sweet spot is tilt your panels 25 degrees to the south. But because we're not far from the equator, if the panels are flat anywhere along that 0-degree tilt line, we're still going to produce at 90% of the sweet spot. So I like to say in South Florida, it's ideal to tilt the panels to the south, but if you can't, tilt them to the east, the west, or keep them flat, that's also still pretty good, essentially just anywhere but north. So here's a little bit about our portfolio. We've done some really interesting projects. I love this one because it's quite beautiful and used for educational purposes as well. This is the Miami Children's Museum, very recognizable building in Miami. You know, local folks know it. It's very visible when you drive across the causeway from downtown Miami to Miami Beach. And what you're seeing here is the wave-shaped walls. And what we did is we connected those wave-shaped walls with, well, it has existing connecting beams. We then connected those beams and then mounted the solar panels to them to create this beautiful structure. And this is used as an exhibit in that museum to educate the patrons about how solar works. That's a really cool project for us. And that's a project that we did in our early days. And I got to be really hands-on and, you know, get in there and install it myself. And it's just fun to have been so involved in the early days. Coconut Grove Residence Inn, which is a 3-building hotel, which is actually around the corner from our location here. And this was a small part of the entire hotel's efforts towards becoming more sustainable. So they put in really thick insulation. The rest of the roof is a white TPO, so highly reflective. They changed all the lights to LEDs. They put in smart thermostats and did solar. And you know, again, from the perspective like of a business, this economically completely pencils out. It just boils down to believing in it, taking that leap of faith. And that's something that we've really aspired towards our business being about, is making it economically viable and then also making it sustainable and not one at the expense of the other. You know, our workmanship, we aim to be really clean. You can see all the wires wrapped up really neatly. It would still work if all the wires were dangling, you know, but we wouldn't want that. So we want something that works and that's beautiful and very presentable. You know, we want something that's going to last a long time and that everybody's going to be really happy about. So we're in this for the long term. This is kind of how the installation looks. You see all these bumps on the roof right here. These are roof penetrations anchoring into a concrete slab, coming up and through the insulation with a 1-inch diameter standoff, and then flashing, waterproofing that roofing penetration to the membrane. So there's quite a lot that's involved in these installations. At the end of the day, a solar panel is a lot like a kite. And the reason that I say that is it's a very large surface area with a very small weight. The challenge with this engineering wise is never the weight on the roof. It's quite the opposite. It's the uplift of the panel in you know, South Florida, where we have hurricanes. So the wind wants to grab that panel and just lift it up. And so for that, you know, there's a lot of meticulous engineering that goes into finding the right spacing between the stands, finding the right bolts, the right hardware to make this thing be able to survive the Category 5 hurricane, which is what Florida Building Code requires in Miami. This is a really cool project. It's Brevard County Carport. And what I love here is that you can bridge solar with a secondary purpose. So this is a waste disposal facility in Brevard County. This is where the staff parks their car. So now they have, you know, a shelter for their car so that their car can be parked in the shade all day. And while doing that, you might as well put solar photovoltaics on the carport. What's cool about this is that, you know, they were able to design it so that the carport had exactly the perfect, you know, orientation and tilt to result in the maximum energy production. So here's another photo of the Residence Inn. This is Turkey Lake. This is a rest stop just outside of Disney World. So it's a really cool project because anybody that drives here, which could be a Floridian, could be tourists visiting Florida to see Disney World, stops here and gets to learn that in Florida, the Sunshine State is about solar. So it's really fun for us to do projects that have a very high visibility so that we can connect with that educational element of what we do. This was a project in Belle Glade. This is a career source. So this is where people go to, help find a job, help people find a job. And we cover that building with solar. So the place is completely sustainable and renewable. What's nice about this is you have a flat roof, you have a parapet wall, and so it's not even visible from the street. Nobody even know it's there. Some folks maybe have a problem with the aesthetic, and there are ways to make the panels completely concealed. So just going back to Turkey Lake, this is one of the things that we did for the customer that they requested, which is putting in a TV with live stream of the information of what's being produced by the system. And again, we need to educate customers and the general public on how this works, because we know it works. And people that go solar rave about how it really pays for itself and how much sense this makes and how tangible the return on investment is. But we want to educate the public, and this was a great opportunity to be able to show this to people, because a place like the rest stop just outside of Disney World has thousands of visitors every day. This is my house, and I think you kind of saw the outline earlier with the Solar Edge platform. This is an example of if a customer has said, well, I don't like how they look. From the ground, nobody would ever even know that they're there. So this is an example of the panels that are flat. They're not tilted to the south. But again, by keeping them flat instead of tilted, I can really pack them in frame to frame. So now I'm able to maximize the number of kilowatts per square foot. And this is basically making my bill net zero. And so here's a copy of my bill. So this bill from Florida Power & Light, you can see, is $9 and change. What I'm paying for with $9 and change is just the privilege to be connected to the grid. So that's what net metering is all about. This is just the basic account management fee, which you see they call the residential service charge. And so what you're seeing on the graph right here is that the line is effectively flat the entire year, with a slight bump up just in like August, September, October. Why? Because in Florida, we use the air conditioner a lot to keep our space cool. And so even though I'd consider the house net zero, it's still, you still have that blip in the summertime. So even when we really do achieve net zero, meaning that the average month's consumption equals the average month's production, the way that it'll work in practice is that you'll build a credit in the wintertime when you're overproducing, and then apply that credit in the summertime when you're consuming more than you're producing. There's just a couple of other projects we did in Miami, Coconut Grove. This customer, his name is Michael Grunwald, and he's pretty well known. He's an author for Politico magazine. And so this was a great opportunity for him to tell the story of becoming sustainable. So he put a massive solar system on his contemporary home. He bought a Chevy Bolt, which is a 100% electric vehicle. It's completely battery. And he gets to charge his electric car with solar power instead of going to the gas pump. And he told the entire story in a Politico magazine newspaper article, which I could post a link for later. I highly recommend checking out. It's another project in the same area, Coconut Grove, just to kind of share with you what it looks like on a tile roof. 30 kilowatt system, quite large. One of the things I like to emphasize is I think that the older paradigm of living sustainably really meant living very sparingly and not using a lot of energy. And of course, I'm all about conservation and I'm all about lowering consumption. But the people that feel strongly about not compromising their lifestyle, I'm excited to say that today, because of how efficient solar panels are, you don't have to compromise your lifestyle. If you want to live in a McMansion, go ahead and live in a McMansion. Just put some thought into the design, and you can still live with big high voltage ceilings and keep your house as cold as you want, and we can still make it completely powered with renewable energy. So that is doable today because of technology. And it's so interesting to me to think about how back in the 60s, when the environment movement was really born in the modern era, people would have loved to do this if only the technology existed. Well, today it does. Technology really is there. So another example of a modern home, flat system, barely visible from the ground, but produces a tremendous amount of energy. And so that's about solar power. I also wanted to talk really briefly about battery backup. Goldin Solar is a Tesla Powerwall certified contractor, and battery backup is an important part of the business. So everything that we've talked about until now with solar relied on the mechanism that I mentioned called net metering, which means buying and selling energy with the grid. However, if you don't have batteries, which the majority of solar customers do not have, when the grid is out because of an outage from the hurricane, the system, the inverter, has to shut off. Okay, so the inverter is what changes DC to AC. It's also the brains of the system that'll report the production, but it's also the interface with the grid. And the reason is that when the grid is down, somebody's going to be working on fixing the grid from the power company. And it's very important that we don't backfeed power to a downed grid, because that could endanger the lives of a power line worker while they're trying to fix the grid. So because of that very reason, there's a mechanism built into the inverter called anti-islanding, which forces the inverter to shut off in the absence of grid power. Well, what if you also want to be able to use your solar panels to power your home in an outage in lieu of using a generator? Well, that is possible. Traditional batteries connect on the DC side of the system, which would mean that you need a special inverter to accommodate that. Tesla developed an AC coupled battery, which is quite brilliant because it allows them to act as a retrofit. So you don't have to change out any of your existing parts on your solar system. That means that the power walls connect on the AC side of the grid. So they still have their own mechanism to isolate from the grid, which is a device called a backup gateway. It's part of the Tesla suite, and it's comparable to, let's say, a generator having a transfer switch. So, these are very, very clean. It's a very attractive product, minimally invasive to your home. They're 6 inches deep. So it really doesn't take a lot of space at all. Mount them on a wall, and now you're able to achieve what otherwise a generator could achieve. And so as climate change worsens, we're going to have more hurricanes. They're going to be more severe. We're going to have more outages and for longer durations of time. And so to be able to also use your solar panels as your safety net, to be able to keep your lights on, means a lot. And what we've witnessed in the last year is that I think the pandemic has really emphasized that, because we got into this mindset of sheltering in place, which means, I feel safe at home, I feel good at home. And ask most Floridians, what's your hurricane plan if the power goes out for 2 weeks? Well, if they didn't have a generator, probably the plan was, I'm going to pack up my family in a car and we're going to drive somewhere that still has power. We'll stay in a hotel for a little while, and then we'll go back home once power is restored. And that may make sense in normal circumstances. But in a pandemic, you really do want to be able to continue to stay home. We don't know what the future looks like. And I think we've all really had a very sobering lesson on how important it is to be able to stay at home. And so that safety net is going to be solar plus battery backup. And we highly recommend it. So this is the most effective way to be able to ensure that you can stay home in a power outage. I like to do a quick comparison between batteries and a generator, because you're going to have solar power instead of pulling power from the grid. The batteries are going to replace the need for a generator for backup purposes. So with batteries, you're storing energy, right? Batteries, essentially all they do is store energy. But when you combine them with solar, the solar is effectively the fuel, and solar is going to power the house during the day, and it's going to recharge the batteries, and then the batteries are going to get you through from sundown to sunrise. So batteries by themselves wouldn't really work long term, but it's that coupling of solar plus batteries that make them work. So you don't have to buy fuel because you have solar plus batteries, and that solar recharges the batteries every single day. The generator, you have to continuously buy fuel, right? You might have a big tank, but you have to fill it. And from my own experience in Miami, there's usually a line of cars that extends 3 blocks a whole week before a hurricane arrives. And that's people trying to fill as many jerry cans as they can to put in a portable generator. That's not sustainable. That's not resilient. That's not practical. Nobody wants that panic mentality and panic shopping. Once you have solar plus batteries, you're ready. You're going to coast by. So batteries have zero maintenance. Generators are very maintenance intensive. Batteries are quiet. They're completely silent. You can mount them on the wall, indoor or outdoor. I have a 5-foot wide side yard, and the batteries only take up 6 inches. So there's no way I would have been able to do a generator there. So it's completely able to fit in, to your existing home. The generator is going to be loud. It's going to put off gases. There was a hurricane, Laura, I think Hurricane Laura, just a few months ago, 15 casualties. 8 out of 15 of those casualties were because of improper use of a portable generator. So it was the fumes of the generator that caused casualties more than the hurricane itself. So batteries are significantly safer. And of course, the generator is very maintenance intensive. The Powerwall's ready right away to back up your home. So here's a couple of photos of our installations. It's quite a beautiful product. And we were able to go back to customers that already had solar and simply add the batteries. And now they have that effect of having, the ability to ride out a hurricane. This is my own house. And like I was describing, this is a 5 foot wide side yard. And so the batteries only take up 6 inches. They don't take up hardly any space at all. And this is really very nice. You're not making any compromises. You don't have to dedicate half of your backyard to the generator. This is something that really fits into our lives very comfortably. So I just want to close with the thought of abundance, and that is that the amount of energy that hits the earth in 1 hour could power the world's energy demand for 1 year. So obviously we can't cover the entire planet for 1 hour with solar, but we can cover parts of the planet for long term. And to me, this just emphasizes how much converting our lifestyle to being powered from sustainable resources really is attainable. And I think we should all work towards that end as much as we can.
That is absolutely beautiful. Darren, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I have a bunch of questions for you, as you might imagine. So I'll start with the first. Is it true that it is illegal to be off-grid in Florida?
That is my understanding. And so to date, we've not done a single off-grid system. Now, one thing I like to emphasize to people that really get kind of rallied up from this is that need not be as oppressive as it might sound. And the reason that I say that is practically it is not very feasible to be off-grid. And the reason is that net metering is extremely convenient. If you need more energy than you're producing at any given moment, if you've got a whole week of rainy days, you simply take that excess power from the grid. And not having to match consumption to production on a second by second basis is what makes this feasible. And so anybody that ever wanted to go off grid, you have to understand that you have to oversize your storage to your consumption, because you have to have batteries if you're off grid. And then you have to oversize your solar relative to the batteries, because you have to make sure that you top off every day. And so if you want to go off grid, you really need, probably double the amount of solar that you would need for a grid tied system. And then you need, probably about 150% of the amount of storage that you would need in a traditional, residential grid tied battery backed up system. So while it's true, it's not really so terrible. And in Florida, we're for the most part have the grid readily available.
Right.
And anybody that wants to go off grid, if it's a small, cabin in the woods, I mean, I can't imagine that would really be a problem. But again, being grid tied actually really is a privilege, and that metering is an amazing resource that is what makes solar feasible.
Fantastic. We have another question. Which power companies are most friendly to net metering here in Florida?
I think that I would say that the friendliest company in Florida to solar is FPL, Florida Power and Light. FPL is owned by the parent company Nextera, and they're known as probably the most sustainable utility in the country. Actually, if you look at their portfolio of power, you'll find more renewable energy assets than just about any other utility in the country. And really just hearing stories from other solar contractors around the country, you hear about utilities sometimes dragging their feet weeks or months to put in that net meter, because you have to have that net meter to be able to power the system on, or you're not going to get credit for the power that you send back to the grid. And Florida Power and Light is a matter of days to get the net meter in, as opposed to maybe other utilities that could be weeks or months. So I think that FPL is very supportive of net metering, and in addition to that, they have done an amazing job at installing massive systems of their own at the utility scale.
Wonderful. Are there any utility companies that will actually pay you to overproduce energy?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think that generally speaking, the law in Florida is that if you overproduce, you will get paid, but not at retail at what they call avoided cost. So avoided cost means essentially the fuel cost. So the way that it works is if you overproduce on a given month, let's say in a winter month, you're not going to get paid per se for that month, but you'll have that credit. It's going to roll over month by month. And the idea again is you overproduce in the winter, you build up credits, and then you use them in the summertime. Now, should you have overproduction rolling over month by month, taking you all the way through the end of the calendar year, then the utility will pay you for your overproduction, but it won't be at the same rate. So as long as you're offsetting your own consumption within a calendar year, it's really at the same rate that you would have paid for it. $1 saved is $1 earned. If you overproduce at the end of the year, then you will be paid, actual money for your excess power, but it's going to be at avoided cost. So I do recommend to our customers to go 100% and not really go way overboard, because the idea is that you use your solar resource to produce your own energy needs.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I want to pull the green curtain back on the wizard and really ask the question that matters to everybody. And let's just say we're looking at throwing a 5K system on somebody's house. How much can we expect to pay? How does the money work on that? And is it really achievable for the average person?
100%, 100%. So really kind of broad numbers, a 5 kilowatt system would probably cost about $2.60 per watt. That's the modern, normal cost for a solar system. So that's going to be 5,000 watts, let's say times 2.6. Assume about $13,000 for a 5 kilowatt system. Okay, a 5 kilowatt system, that's $13,000 cost. It's going to have a tax credit of 26% for folks that are eligible. So a tax credit equal to $3,380. And then after the tax credit, in other words, the 13,000 times 74%, it's going to cost $9,620. Now, a 5 kilowatt system will produce on an average month, it's 5.2 peak hours a day, 30.5 days a month at 85% conversion DC AC. 5 kilowatt system will produce about 675 kilowatt hours per month at a energy value of 12 cents. A 5 kilowatt system will produce $80. So imagine that the cost after a tax credit for 5 kilowatt system would be about $9,500, and it's going to save you $80 a month. So basically $9,620 divided by $80, you're looking at 120 months or 10 years. You're looking at a 10-year payback, and that's assuming that the price of energy never changes. Pretty common in the industry to estimate about a 3% escalation in energy costs, which make it more like a 7-year payback. I like to say over the 25-year warranted life of the system, it'll probably quadruple the return of the initial cost.
And thank you. I love that's just very easy to understand. And I mean, a 10-year investment in renewable and regenerative energy seems like a no-brainer for me. Now, what about the Tesla batteries? What is how easy is it to get into that field financially?
Yeah, so the Tesla Powerwalls are cost comparable to a generator. And it's something that I've always worked hard to emphasize, and that is, if anybody looks at the cost of solar and the cost of a generator, and they want to compare it to the cost of utility power, it's going to look overwhelming. But the grid doesn't give you backup power from the grid. The grid just gives you power. And likewise, solar offsets power unless the grid is out, in which case the solar system turns off unless you have batteries. So I like to say solar should be cost comparable to the grid, and the batteries should be cost comparable to a generator. And I certainly think that that's achieved. I would say that probably out of the door, maybe the batteries are slightly more expensive than the generator. But when you consider that they're maintenance free, that you'll never have to buy fuel for them, then they become significantly cheaper over the life of their utility. And in addition to that, it's just such a better user experience. I'm going to try to pull up my Tesla app and show you guys what it looks like, from the user experience to look at it. And you can see right here the batteries are at 97% charged. So it's really as simple as just opening up the app and seeing what the state of charge is, and then you can see in real time what's flowing where. So you might not be able to see the numbers, but the solar system's producing 9 kilowatts. The home is using 1 kilowatt, and the balance, the 8 kilowatts, are going back to the grid. So you can see that in real time. And what's so nice about this system compared to a generator is that you can do a trial run. You can shut off your main breaker and experience what it would be like to be without power in an outage, and then make decisions on what to use or what not to use. Maybe not use the dryer, maybe not heat your swimming pool, maybe try to cook with your camping gas stove instead of with regular oven. And so this is really nice because it's such a nicer user experience that the customer can become a lot more familiar with the capabilities of the system long before a hurricane actually shows up. Unlike a generator that I think you put there, you have the peace of mind knowing that it's there, but how much do you really know its power capabilities relative to your consumption and long-term energy production with the gas that you have. So it's, to me, a much nicer user experience and much more modern for the smartphone and app sort of era.
Absolutely. And not to mention the sound. Anybody who's been through a storm and has experienced that buzzing of generators, it's not a very peaceful sound. So absolutely. I want to shift the conversation a little bit. One of the things that impressed me most when you were here was your connection and dedication to the environment. So I wanted to ask you how you felt that the permaculture ethics, the idea of a regenerative future, of a livable planet, really is answered by a lot of the things solar has to provide and offer us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. I think that basically human beings have worshiped the sun, believed in the sun, wanted to cultivate the sun from so far back in history. I think it was Edison that said something to the effect of, I would put my money on the sun. Basically, people have been designing buildings with the sun in mind long before we had solar photovoltaics, with things like passive house to use the sun for lighting your home. And of course, plants figured it out. How much of the sun is really the fuel for their existence. I was in college and I realized that we all need to make a living. We all have to make money and to put food on our table and have a roof over our head in the modern economic society. But it occurred to me that you could do things that will make you a living, that will do good in the world, or you can do things that will essentially not make any impact in the world, or you can do things that will have harm on the world. And if it's really just that, straightforward, why not mindfully, intentionally select to dedicate your life to something that will do a net improvement in the world? And that's what made me really stoked about solar. It was, I mentioned earlier, I learned about green building, and I just said, wow, well, if we could build buildings that instead of putting out carbon, absorb carbon, or that support charging electric vehicles that don't put out emissions, let's do this. And I kind of made my way in my career from structural engineering, which is what I studied for my bachelor's degree, to construction management, which is what I studied for my master's degree, and worked as a construction manager for about 5 or 6 years. And then I kind of had that overlapping where I worked as a construction manager for the solar industry. And then it just clicked. I can do construction as a solar contractor and bring this to the masses. And it's been really rewarding to see the solar industry evolve from something 7 years ago that was really adopted by early adopters, environmentalists, people that really felt strongly about it, to the point that technology and economics were improving, that it then made sense for people that said, well, I just need to see the dollar and cents penciling out. And we were able to achieve that with the improved technology and with becoming, a larger organization and operating on a large scale. And now I think it also caters to the people that say, I just want to do what's cool. I want to do the now thing. And so to me, and now with battery backup, it also caters to the people that say, I'm a prepper. I want to be able to ride out the storm in my doomsday bunker. We can meet all these needs. And it's just so amazing to think that technology coupled with, good intentions and really caring about the planet can deliver where this industry is today and answer the needs of the masses.
Yeah. Well, I'm very appreciative and very grateful for the work you do. And thank you for taking the time to share your passion with us today. Can you share where we can get in touch with you? More contact information.
Absolutely. So I always like to make myself available. If anybody ever wants to talk to me directly, I want to make sure that our customers have the most positive experience. I can be reached on my cell phone, which I have up on the internet. It's 305-469-9790. My email address is dgoldin@goldinsolar.com. Golden spelled with an I, not an E. And, check out our website, goldensolar.com. Please check out our Instagram page. We have beautiful content. We do really beautiful installations. Check out our Facebook group. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Really, we would just love to connect with anybody, answer anybody's question, give people, free estimates and show folks how solar can work for them. And, in the economics discussion, we talked about how long does it take to pay for itself. Most people finance. So most people get solar with $0 down and make their monthly payments only equal or less than what they're already paying, for the utility. So it's really quite accessible to most folks. As long as they own their rooftop, they have a solar resource, and you might as well convert that sunshine into savings and into carbon offset.
Yeah, in the concept of a regenerative future, I don't think we really can afford not to go to solar. So I really appreciate the work you're doing, and thank you for helping make it more accessible and available for everyone. We're gonna be taking this conversation to our Facebook community group, in which Darren has agreed to answer more questions. So if you have any detailed solar questions, or you want to know more about just getting solar up on your roof, feel free to head over there and post some questions there. I want to thank Amy Zelt for all the production management making this call happen. Thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you. And thank everybody here on the call to make it possible. Your donations, your showing up, we're doing it for you. So if all businesses decided to take those permaculture ethics into account, if we all decided that people care and earth care and sharing the surplus really mattered, and we stopped doing business that didn't agree with those ethics, imagine the world we'd be in. And with more companies shifting towards regenerative technologies and more systems that help create cleaner energy sources, I truly believe we're walking towards a system that will be more abundant and regenerative for our future generations. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.